Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Under Eagle Mountain Making Podcast. Hello everybody and Happy New Year 2025. That kind of seems unbelievable for somebody of my age. My birthday was the end of December and I was 44 and yeah, like 2000 I remember. Do you remember the whole millennium bug thing and like Prince partying like it was 1999 and everything? To get to sort of quarter of the way through that next century just seems insane. So yeah, let's hope it's a good one. I hope you all had a lovely winter break, whatever it is that you celebrate. I did. We had a really nice one actually as a family. The kids were off for like 2 weeks, just over, like they had an extra day either side, and it felt really long, but not in a oh my god that was a long break way. Like it just seemed to stretch and stretch like summer holidays did when you were a kid. It was like that. It was lovely. I think partly we went to my brother's house for Christmas and spent that with his family, and then and my mum and my sister-in-law's family were there as well. And then New Year we went to my dad's, who lives in North Wales, with my stepmom, and we went there. So I didn't have to do any hosting or anything, you know. My only job was to kind of pack and unpack stuff, which was easy. We kind of did it. In fact, if I'm honest, I've still not done all of it. Like when we were at home, we were just really lazy and like kind of crammed into that sort of 2 and a bit weeks as well as Christmas. I had my husband's birthday before Christmas and mine afterwards. So there was just kind of lots of nice stuff happening, and it was all really low key. And, you know, days at home, the kids didn't get out their pajamas and they were just, everyone was just really happy and relaxed. It's been really nice. And so they've been back at school this week, sort of. The little ones should have gone back on Monday, but they didn't because we had loads of snow last weekend and it was just shut. They couldn't get in or out. Teachers couldn't get there. And then the rest of the week, I think they were in as normal on Tuesday, but then the rest of the week the school asked if they could come in at 10:30. Like if you had to go to work or anything like that, or they were open to accept you. But if for families though it was possible to keep you until 10:30, they asked that you did, just to allow staff to get there without like risking themselves, because the roads have been, I mean, it's been like down to -10 at night, so it's really icy and dangerous. So they're just trying to get staff to school safely rather than like them getting up and trying to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning and rush, which I think is nice. As a former primary school teacher, I was one of those that got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and like did the icy roads and stuff to get to school in good time. And sometimes I got there and the head would say, nobody else has come in, go home. And I'd be like, oh no. So I think it's quite nice that the school of, you know, looking after the staff. And it was, you know, for us, it was fine. The kids, the younger kids had lazy mornings and a bit of time in the snow and doing this, that and the other. So it's been a kind of gentle back into it this week, which has been nice. I didn't do as much making over the break as I thought I would, partly because the wrist and sort of forearm and elbow pain that I experienced in autumn has come back a little bit. I'm not entirely sure why. When it started, I put it down to the fact that I'd done loads of digging in the garden. I've said this before, so I won't go on about it. I did loads of digging in the garden, and I think the jolting of, we've got quite heavy clay, and then separating plants, the roots and everything, I think that caused a problem. And at the same time, I was doing lots of knitting. I knitted my bandana cardigan and I knitted that in like 2 weeks. I did it really quickly. And it didn't quite occur to me at the time that the sort of damage that I'd done and the pain that I was experienced due to the one was then going to be exacerbated by the other. So come the end of October, I stopped knitting for a couple of weeks. And then it went away and it was fine, and I thought I was fine. But then like the week before Christmas, maybe, it started to come back a bit, and I kind of ignored it at first, which I know everyone's going to tell me was wrong. I just thought, oh, I'll take a paracetamol, it'll be fine. But actually, by the time the Christmas break came, it was aching a bit. I think some of it seems to be worse if I'm doing small circumference stuff. So I was doing some socks, and I'd done another one of those colourwork hats. And I'm going to tell you in a minute, I'm going to have to do another one of those colourwork hats. I don't think my arms liked that as much as maybe sort of knitting bigger things or knitting flat. But I don't know. So I'm back to the not knitting at the minute. It does feel a lot better now than it did at the beginning of the week. So the not knitting is obviously helping my arm, but it is not helping me. It's not helping my brain or my soul, or like it's no, it's so silly, but I suppose if you're here watching knitting podcasts, you know exactly what I mean. It's hard, like something that you do every single day, to suddenly not do it and like want to do it but not be able to do it. It's kind of a bit of a nightmare. So I'm really hoping that it gets better. I'm looking into different things. I've been doing that since October. I looked up wrist and arm exercises, and I've been doing those every day. Maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I should knock that off for a week and just completely rest it. I am going to go. I've booked a massage next week as well, because I have for about 10 years had pain in this bit of my neck on my left hand side, my left shoulder, underneath my left shoulder blade, and then it runs down into my hip, which I put down totally to like 12-13 years of carrying a child on my left hip whilst doing something with my right hand. You know, I think it's to do with that. And my mum has often said to me, why don't you go for a regular massage and it'll just all loosen it up and it should help. And I've never done it, but I've decided that maybe I should start looking after myself a bit more, and that would be a nice way to do it. So I've booked one for next week, and I'll see how it goes, and if I like it and if it makes a difference, I might do one a month. It might be a good investment. Anyway, I hope you are pain-free and knitting away happily, even if it's just to get you through this kind of rambly intro. So I will start with my finished objects. I did finish the bob pants that I wanted to make to go with the jumper that I showed last time. I was going to wear them. If you weren't here last time, or you don't follow me on Instagram, so you don't know what I'm talking about, I knitted a jumper called the Louvre sweater by Petite Knit, in a yarn that I dyed myself, which was kind of like a goldeny brown base with speckles of orange and yellow and green and dark brown. And I had some cotton, like an icat woven candy cotton, and I made a pair of bob pants, which is a pattern by a company called Style Arc. I will put a photo up. It doesn't show the whole outfit. This is just the photo I put on Instagram. I'll put that up so you can see the fabric. I was going to wear it today and include a little photo of or a video of me wearing it so you could see it full length, but I haven't done, partly because I kind of, in my brain, it's kind of like a fancy outfit, even though it's bob elasticated pants and a jumper. Like, it's quite a smart outfit to me, like, you know, in terms of the look and the fabric, and but also it's not super warm here. It's beautiful. I will put in some pictures too that I took this morning, just a couple of photos of the trees in the garden. As I said, it snowed last Saturday, it snowed on Sunday, it snowed on Tuesday, and it's just since then it's not really got above freezing at all. And at night it's been like the last 3 nights, I think, it's gone down to like -10. And I know it's been cold all over the country. In fact, my mum, who is on the East Coast, has had it even colder. She's in the northeast. We're in the northwest of England. And yeah, -10 is kind of cold enough, definitely for my greenhouse, which had a lot of seedlings in, seeds that I'd planted in sort of late September. They're doing really well. All sorts of different flowers, including some dye plants. And I have, since Wednesday, just stopped going to look at them. I think Wednesday was the last day I went because they were not looking good. They had that slightly glassy look to them. even though they're on like a woolly kind of blanket to keep them warm from underneath, and they've got protective fleece over the top. It's just not happening. So it is very cold. The inside of our house was measuring about 10.5 degrees. We have got up to 12.5 degrees. But because of that, I have put on a really big warm Aran jumper. And I've got my cotton bob pants on, but I've got thermal leggings underneath and a thermal top under here. This is just like a traditional Aran jumper. I did not knit it. It is hand knitted, but not by me. I don't know who knitted it. I got it in a charity shop a few summers ago in North Wales, near where my dad lives, for £5. Like, I think it was probably knitted maybe for a man. I don't know. It's quite big, but I love it. It's so cozy and it's so warm, and I wear it a lot. It's like the jumper I take camping with us, or if it's cold and I want to potter in the greenhouse. As a result, it is a bit grubby. I don't know if you can, oh, there's some like I have actually washed this. I washed it on Monday because I realised it had like grubby stains, what my gran would have called canteen medals, where you drop food on yourself. And so it was gross. So it's still a bit grubby, but I love it. It's so warm and cozy. And even though I've got other jumpers that are warm, I think because it's so long, like it comes down to sort of past my, like, to like the bottom of my bum. I don't know, it's just snuggly and cozy, and it's the jumper I wear when I'm chilly. So that's what I've got on. So bob pants were the first finished project, but I haven't got it to show you. The second one is my scout scarf. This is a pattern by Studio Misha and Puff. I said at the time it was originally a free pattern, and then it changed, so you could only get it free when you bought yarn. I haven't checked. I'm assuming that's still the same, but I don't know. But then my dad and stepmom bought me a book called Making Things by Erin Boyle and Rose Perlman for my birthday, or for my birthday. And it's just got loads of different crafts in it. It's really good. If I remember, I'll put a photo of it in so you can see. And actually, this pattern is in that book. So if you have access to that book, it's quite new, so I don't know if it'll be in libraries and stuff yet, but it might be. You could get the pattern for this in there, but it's kind of, there are loads of patterns like this out there, aren't there? And it's just one of those that you just, it's very cute. I guess it's called a scout scarf because it looks a bit like, I don't know if I had a woggle on it, a bit like the kerchiefs they wear in the Scouts. It's knitted in a sport weight yarn called Lunar Sport by a company called 5 Moons, and the colour is Vampire's Tipple. It's a superwash yarn. I bought it ages and ages ago. I think the first time I went to Yarndale I bought it, and I don't think I would buy it now, but actually it's really lovely. It's very squishy. It's hand dyed. Well, it's called hand painted. I don't know what the difference is there really, but it's really nice. I really like it. Actually, I've got quite a bit of the yarn left. I could probably knit another one. Why I would want two in the same, I don't know, but I think I used about half of it. I'm very pleased with that. It's just a little thing, but it's good. Now, the other thing I finished, I talked about this last time. Not many people watched the last video. I think maybe in the midst of what was it called, Vlogmas, like everyone was focused on keeping up with the Vlogmases, so maybe they didn't have time, or maybe it just didn't look interesting. I don't know, but so a lot of you might not have seen that, but I said I had these calico bags from a wool bedding company, so like duvets and pillows, that sort of stuff, toppers. We've got a lot of woolen pillows, and each pillow came in like a calico bag with a zip and with like just fabric handles, like woven handles, and a zip on top, but it had the logo on the side. I don't really like carrying things around with logos on, and they weren't very pretty, but they were good size, and like instinctively I felt these are useful, these could be used for something, I don't want to chuck them out. And so I like hoarded them. I must have used some of them for other things, but I think I've got 4 or 5 of the pillow size ones, and then I've got a bigger one that I think a duvet came in. And this year coming, I'm determined to clear some stuff out of my cupboards and out of my drawers and out of my stash, just because I'm feeling a bit kind of overwhelmed by all the stuff, and also feeling like I need to kind of not take for granted how lucky I am to have all this stuff, and to sort of use some of it up. Oops, dropping my notes. So what I did was took the bag apart into its constituent pieces, and then I made a quilted outer to the right size, and then I sewed it all back together with the original fabric as the lining fabric, and I used the original zip, and I was meant to use the original handles, but I forgot to put them on, and I only realised when I was getting ready to sew it all, like do the last seam, and I thought, oh, I'm not, that would mean taking the zip out and everything, and I can't be bothered. So instead of being a bag, it's like a big pouch, which is fine. So this is it. It's quite large. I'd say it was like 50 centimetres by 75 centimetres, something like that. I hope you can see it with the sun on it. That's probably, you can see all the fabric. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that I'm in a different position. I have in fact moved my sewing room around. My sewing room is like this weird space at the top of the first floor landing, so you can see through these curtains here. That is the corridor that goes back towards the stairs. That's my bedroom. There's another bedroom that way, and then it goes down, and there's a staircase that goes down and another one that goes up. So it's this sort of weird odd space. I don't know what it would have been for originally. The house is Victorian, but it's lovely. It's a really nice space. It's got this lovely view out the window, and normally I sat in that far corner over there by the sort of next to the window, and I'm now kind of opposite it. I might put in a few photos, which will only mean something to you if you've seen pictures of how it was before, but I moved it around largely because the desk with the sewing machine on was kind of in the middle of this wall, and then the other table, which I use for cutting out on, not for clothes or anything, for smaller things like when I'm patchworking or whatever, was over here behind me, where you can see here, and there's no plug socket or anything on this wall, which means like in the winter or on a gloomy day or like past 2:30, I just couldn't do any cutting out, particularly if I was cutting out with a dark fabric, because there was just no light. There is a central light in the room, but it's not especially bright, and I do have lamps and stuff, but they're all on this wall, sort of behind where the camera is, because that's where the plug sockets are. So I've moved that desk so it's under the table, and I think this is all right. I think there's enough light. It is a super bright sunny day. It's absolutely beautiful. So I have in fact pulled a curtain over slightly, because I was just completely like, like this. You couldn't see anything, but it's lovely. So anyway, hopefully you can still see the colours enough. These are all different like creams and browns. Most of them, well, I'll say this one, I've just said about the light. This one, I've had for ages. I've had at least a decade, and I know that because I used it in a dolly that I made my eldest boy for his 2nd birthday. And he's going to be 12. He told me this morning, in 17 days. So yeah, I've had that quite a while. And then this one, I just said about that. Like this one, I've got quite a lot of that actually. It's a vintage fabric that I bought to make a dress. I wanted to make like a summer dress out of it, but when it came, I washed it and ironed it, and then I was getting ready to cut, and you line up your selvages and you pin it and you get it all. The pattern was printed at an angle, so in order to cut on the grain, the pattern was like, it wasn't like at 45 degrees, it was just ever so slightly off, which meant it just looked really weird to look at. Like there'd be no chance of pattern matching, and it would just look like, because it's quite graphic, I think it would look just kind of wrong over a dress. So it just went folded up and back in the pile. So this is the first time I've used any of it, and I do really like it. And then this one was a summer dress as a poplin that I got on sale at Merchant and Mills. It was like an end of roll or a dead stock fabric or something, and I made a summer dress out of that. And then these are the ones, so this one, this one, this one, and this rather nice chrysanthemum one here, all came from Jane at Snapdragon Life. She was also clearing out her fabric stash, and I don't think she felt she had a chance of using everything up, so she washed and ironed and then sold off bundles in colours. And I bought the brown bundle because I love brown. So yeah, that's my second finished project. And actually, it's okay that it doesn't have handles. It would probably be better if it had handles, and I'm definitely going to put handles on the next one. I hope. My brain's like a flipping sieve. I can't remember anything. But my plan is to remember the handles. But it's fine. I think actually I've got, can I reach it? This is the bag that I use when I go away. It's like an old tapestry bag, which I think it was my mum's. I think it came from Marks and Spencer's. For anybody in Britain, yeah, it did. Do you remember when they had like the St Michael brand, which was kind of like the posh stuff? My mum got it from there, I think in like late 80s, early 90s, and it's just my favourite. I love it, but it's not actually that big, so if I'm going away for more than a couple of days, it's a bit of a pain. So this will kind of be an overspill bag, or maybe, you know, for like your dirty washing or whatever. I think it goes quite nicely with that. So that's that. Moving on to whips. I'll show this briefly. I think I showed the swatch for this last time. This is my Easy V sweater. It's a pattern by Caitlin Hunter at Boylan Knitworks, and I'm knitting it in a mix of yarns. Oh, drop my pencil. So the ribbon is 3 strands of woolly knit British wool in fingering weight. Oh, that's not it. Sorry, I haven't got it here. So there's 2 in the lighter colour, which I think was called Autumn Fire, and 1 in a darker sort of burgundy colour. I think it's going to be all right. And then the 3 colours for the, I'm sorry, the light's not quite right. I might go and shut that curtain a bit more. There you go, you can kind of see it. There's this darker colour and this sort of browny one, and then this pale peachy colour. They're all Norrow yarns, and I'm just about to start back on this darker yarn, which is, this is what it looks like. It's kind of a variegated yarn, as is the second one, but it's sort of like browns and pinks as opposed to reds and pinks. And then this is the last one. So it's more all one colour, but it just sort of have tweedy bits in. And yeah, it's going really, really well, or it was doing. I think I like this. I kind of wish now that I'd held 2 strands of the darker colour with one of the lighter pinks, so that it was a darker sort of reddier colour, which would match better with this, rather than that is a very definite pink. I think I like it. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to have to just keep going with it and see. But I'm not going to talk about that too much, partly because I don't think I'm going to get back to knitting it for quite a while. Similarly, The other work in progress I have are these socks. Excuse me 1 minute, I'm just going to pull that curtain across a little bit more because the sun has moved. Did you hear something collapse? I don't know what it was. It feels awful blocking out the sun. There we go. So these are a merino sock yarn, a high twist sock yarn from Laxton's that I dyed with avocado stones. It's like a really lovely soft pink, slightly tonal. I'm knitting them in tandem. It's just like the first socks I learned to knit. In fact, I've only ever used 2 knitting patterns, and the one that I use the most is the free rye sock pattern, free pattern by Tin Can Knits. And then I kind of just use that as a basic formula, but then I change it. So like I changed the type of ribbon. This one's got I think it's got 4 rows of just stockinette at the top, so you get 4 rows of stockinette at the top, so you get that kind of rolled top. I changed the needle size. I think they do the ribbon on 2.5 and the body on 2.75. I've done all of this on 2 mils. It's a 60 stitch leg and foot. I've got quite small feet, a UK size 3, so that's a 36 European size. And yeah, the previous ones, like the first few that I did knit on the larger needle size, I think I did the ribbon on 2 mil and the body on 2.5, and they're just a little bit big. There's a little bit of movement. I do wear my socks out in my boots, you know. I'm not, a lot of people say, oh, I only wear my knitted socks at home. Like, I wear mine all the time. And so obviously a little bit of movement in your shoe increases friction, which increases the chance of holes. So I like them to be, these are the first ones that I've knitted entirely on 2, oh no, I didn't. I knitted a pair of 3x1 ribs on 2 mil, but I think the rib itself makes them bigger. So this is the first sort of straight stockinette ones, but I can get my foot and leg in there easy, no problem. So I'd hope to get those done over Christmas, but as I say, I didn't do that much knitting, and most of the knitting I did was on my Easy V because I became obsessed with the colour work. But both of those are going to the side. They're being put away for a little while, partly because I'm not doing much. I'm going to be doing a lot less knitting because of my wrist. I'm going to try and ease back into it slowly, but mainly because the next month or more I'm just going to be dedicated to like obligatory projects. That makes it sound like I mind. I don't mind. I've got all 3 of my boys have birthdays coming up, and 2 of them I've asked them to make me things. My littlest boy wants me to sew him a bag. Like, he kept chopping and changing about what he wanted, and he couldn't really decide. But essentially, the main thing, like, he wanted a new friend, he wanted this, he wanted that. Like, he just did he want a jumper? He didn't know. But ultimately, the one thing he kept saying is that he wanted a bag, and he wanted a bag that he could wear on his shoulder or he could wear across his body, and he wanted it to be a little bag, like he'd seen a picture of like a bum bag, and he really liked that. But he wanted it on his shoulder like a lady's handbag, or he wanted it across his body so he could carry it hands free. Like, he was a bit vague and a bit choppy and changey. But I then showed him a picture of the Bestie bag. That is a pattern by somebody I can't remember. Sorry, it's quite well known. If I remember, I'll put it on the screen. And that comes in, the original pattern comes in like a large, medium and a small, I think, and then you can get like a pattern add-on, so you have to have the original pattern, which is slightly annoying, but a pattern add-on for a baby one, which is like a tiny small sized one, which I thought would be just right for a rather dinky 6-year-old. He's going to be 6 at the end of next month, but he is still a tiny tot, really. So that's what I decided to make him, and I've started on that. This is where I'm up to. You can kind of see it forming. So the outside is made out of a fairly lightweight denim, midweight maybe, denim that I used to make my caladium jumpsuit, which I talked about in past episodes, and I had a reasonable amount left. This has used most of it up, like most of the sort of bigger size, like big piece. I've still got scrappy bits left. So I've kind of got the sides and the top, and I've got the zip in. The zip, admittedly, is a little bit small. I think I was meant to use a 23cm zip and mine was 21. So I just increased the size of the tabs either end. Partly I did that because this was the zip that I had. I did have a bigger zip that I could have cut down, but it was just navy blue, whereas this, I really liked the green. I like the green on the denim, but also this lining fabric, which also came in that pack of fabric I got from Jane. You can see it's got red, white, yellow and green sort of plus shapes on it, and the green matches perfectly. So that's the lining. So I'm not far off doing that now. I have to put on the bottom piece that runs under there, and then have to top stitch all of that kind of from the inside, from like through the lining and through the gap here, which I'm not entirely sure I'll be very successful on, and then put the strap on. The strap has different options. You can do it with a buckle, you can do it with webbing, or the one that I'm going to do is that you just you have a looped tab on one end, and then the other end is just a long strap, and you put it through and tie a knot. And that's the one that I'm going to do, because it means I don't have to go out and buy a buckle. And so I'm not going to, because I want to try and not buy stuff, and I also just want to get it done and not have to wait for stuff to arrive in the post. The post, with all the weather, and like we live up a hill, I've probably said this before, it's like you have to go over a railway crossing, which it was so cold earlier in the week that it froze and it just wouldn't lift up and down. And then it's a single track up a hill to our house, and it's an unadopted road, so it doesn't get gritted, although our local council have decided that they're not really going to do much gritting at all, it would seem. Like they didn't grit around school or anything. So there's just like this much, there was like this much snow, which has now been compacted into like this much ice. So we haven't driven up and down. My husband took his car down and parked on the road at the bottom at the weekend, last weekend, so that he could get in and out to get to work and to drive the big two into town to drop them off at the bus stop. But my car's up here because it's not really fair for us to take up 2 spaces down there. So I've not been, it's fine, I've walked the kids up and down the hill to take them to school, but I haven't been in or out, which is fine. But it also means that no post has come up at all. So I've got stuff floating around, like I keep getting messages every day saying, we'll deliver it today, and then every night saying, no, we didn't. So there was no way I was going to order something else, because who knows if it would ever arrive. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that so far. It is what it is. So that's the baby. I call him the baby. He's not a baby. He's going to be 6. It's my baby. And then the next one up, he's going to be 10. For those of you who've been here before, in the autumn, beginning of autumn, I knitted my cousin a hat. It was called the Flip Side Beanie by Heather Walpole. And it is just a basic beanie with 2x2 ribbon at the bottom, but then it has like a checkerboard, 2-colour checkerboard fabric for the main bit of the hat. And I knitted it for my cousin because he'd seen one in like a ready-to-wear one and really liked it. And so I thought, oh, I'll knit him one as a surprise. And then my daughter said, I love that, I'd really like a black and white one. Charlie's was like an off-white and green. So I knitted her a black and white one for her birthday in October. And then my husband said, I'd really like one just like Charlie's. So I knitted one for him that he got it for Christmas. Then my eldest boy said, I would really like one, because mine be blue and orange. And I knitted another one for a friend of mine who was having a baby. So I've knitted 5 of those hats. So I've definitely got my money's worth out of buying the pattern. And I thought I was done, but I'm not. Because on Tuesday, when my husband and the big two were getting ready to go to school, they all had their checked hats on. And my middle son looked at me and said, actually, I think I would quite like a hat. Now, this was quite momentous because he does not like knitted things. He's never asked me to knit him anything, ever. Every now and again, he asks me to sew him something. Not often. He can kind of take it or leave it when it comes to homemade presents. Like the others all really like it. They say, please make this and please make that, and can I have this and can I have that? But he's just not that. He's just like, yeah, no, whatever. Like, he just wants Lego. Basically, he lives for Lego. And but he said, you know, would you knit me one? And I thought, well, I have to, don't I? I have to, because you never ask for anything knitted. So we had a look, and he chose this. Oh, I can't even remember what it is, because it was, I don't know what it is. It was in my stash like that. It's a navy blue yarn. It is, I don't think it is 100% wool. I think it's wool and alpaca, from what I remember. I don't even, I've got a grey one the same, I think, that I gave. I had another ball of this and a grey one, and they did have the labels on, but I gave them to my mother-in-law at the beginning of December because she wanted to knit a checked hat. So I gave her the yarn with which to do it, because I had it in stash and thought, I don't need that. But I can't remember what the label said, so I'm terribly sorry. I want to say it's a drops. I've had it years and years and years, but I don't know. Anyway, that's it. It's a navy blue. And the contrast one he wants is this, which is a BFL Masham mix yarn, so very soft, that I dyed yonks ago with indigo. I think it was, I mean, years and years ago now. It was the first indigo bath. It was a fructose indigo vat, and it was the first one that I ever did. And I dyed some fabric, which I then used to make a quilt for my littlest, and I dyed 5 or maybe even no 5 100-gram skeins of this BFL Masham, and I didn't do a very good job, actually. You can't see it. I might have a photo of it somewhere. If I have, I'll put it on. There were definitely like dark splodges, and I think either when you do an indigo vat, you get what's called like a flower, so you get like this bubbly dark blue bit on top, and you kind of have to like scrape that off, and you add it back in at the end, but you kind of scrape it off when you're dyeing. So maybe I didn't scrape that off well enough, or maybe it hit the bottom and went into the sort of indigo-y sludge, but there's like dark splodges on it. I'm hoping it'll come out looking, you know, artfully variegated rather than horrid, but I don't think in a little colourwork hat it's going to make any difference. So they're the two. I think there's enough contrast. So yeah, that's that. I cast it on and knitted. I cast it on Thursday and knitted 1 round, and then I knitted 4 rounds yesterday, and that's it. That's all I could manage before my wrist hurt. His birthday's at the beginning of February, so I don't even know if I'll have it done, but if I don't, he won't be upset as long as he can see it coming, especially because he also asked me for something else. He asked me ages ago if I would make him a dressing gown. Just like, what? Thankfully not a knitted one. He wanted a sewn one. He wanted it to be cosy, but I don't want to use like polar fleece type plasticky material. So that sort of left us with quilty type material. I didn't want to buy a pre-quilted fabric, partly because they're quite expensive, and also because a lot of them come in sort of florally type fabrics, which I didn't think he would appreciate, particularly as he'd asked me to have a gentle Percy Jackson theme. So for those of you that don't know, and why should you? Perseus Jackson is a character in children's books. I like older children's books, they're novels, and it's like a modern take on Greek myths. He's like a demigod, so his mum is mortal, but his dad is Poseidon. So with that, my son wanted a sort of blue and green to represent the sea, and maybe like the odd fish. This is what he asked for. I was like, oh, okay. So I thought I'd going to end up having to like buy fabric and then quilt it myself, but again, I didn't. It seemed like a lot of work, like just to get the fabric before I started making. So anyway, I had a look on eBay and I did come across a quilt just by chance. So this was the outside of it. So you've got some fishy bits, you've got some grey bits, starfish, sand dollars. And it's nice enough. It's not really my thing, sort of printed patterned cotton in bright colours, but for this that was good. And then the back side of it was just all this fabric. And actually I've made this the outside and that will be the inside, because I thought this would get very grubby, if I'm honest. I thought this would hide his, you know, breakfast stains better. So I did not do what might be better. It wasn't massive, this quilt. It was like 40 inches by 50 inches, more or less, like roughly. So in order to make the most of it, I decided that I would make a dressing gown that was just basically rectangles. Several years ago, quite a lot of years ago, I made a couple of jackets, one for my eldest boy and the first one I made was for the baby. I'll put a picture up. And I didn't make up the pattern. I saw a picture on Pinterest of this type of jacket. It was a Japanese jacket, and with it there was like an article about them. I can't remember the name of them. I can't find the article. I thought I'd pinned it. Maybe I had, but I clear out pins quite regularly, and like, you know, photos and saved things on Instagram and everything. I don't like the idea of just having piles of stuff everywhere, and I clear it all out quite often, and I've obviously cleared it out. But basically you have a piece of fabric and you cut 4 rectangles where the width is 1/4 of the length. So in the case of this, the length was 40, had the quilt sort of landscape, and so the length was 40 inches, so each section was 10 inches, and sorry, in five sections, so that fit perfectly. And then 2 of those sections were added together. I cut them as one, as 20 inches, and that's the back piece. And then you have 1 10 by 40 is each of the front pieces, and then 1 10 by 40, the last 10 by 40 you cut into quarters. 1/4, so 10 by 10 makes that arm. 1/4 10 by 10 makes that arm. 1 you cut in half and you have a 5 by 5 that makes an underarm gusset, and then the last bit I was going to use for pockets, so I could use up the whole quilt. And basically that's how I made my baby son's jacket when he was a baby. He was 18 months ish, and it worked perfectly. It doesn't seem to be working. I mean, partly I'm doing it all from memory because I didn't have instructions. I worked from the picture and from the information in the article, but I can't find that. But I'm a bit worried that the arm looks a bit thin. I hope I've explained this well. I feel like I'm a bit waffly and it's hard to show. So look, this is, I've cut out a little notch for the back neck, and then I just like shaved off a small triangle to make like a slightly tapered opening at the front. And I have ordered some fabric, who knows when that will arrive, in this sort of limey green colour. This was the original binding. When the first thing I did was took off all the binding, and I'll reuse that to bind all the seams inside like this. So that's part of the original quilt, but this is a seam, and that there is a seam, and I've just kind of opened out the bias binding and pressed it on and sewn it. So technically it could be worn reversibly. You could have either side as the front if you wanted. That's what I was thinking. But yeah, it's looking it looks a bit weird, the proportion. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because the body's so long, whereas the little jacket that I made for my little one was a short jacket. Or whether because that was boxier, like the wider each section is, obviously the wider the sleeve is. So maybe that could have done to be like a bit wider, which would make the sleeve a bit wider, but I couldn't because I was constrained by the size of the quilt. I have kind of held it up and put it against my oldest son. So although he's 2 years older than the middle one, there's like 5 centimetres between them in difference and nothing between them in build. They're both super skinny. And he said, oh no, that feels fine. But like, I don't know, 5 inches depth seems a bit small, especially that's got to take off some seam allowance. And then that kind of folds underneath like that to make it a bit, so you've got more space under the arm. I don't know. I think I'll try. I might tack it all together and get my older son to try it on rather than like make it properly, because you have to kind of bind each seam as you go. So I might just tack it together and see how we're doing. And then if it doesn't fit, I'll have to take the underarm gusset out and I will add a strip of fabric all the way up from their bottom hem, and I'll add a stripe of the contrasting fabric all the way along, because I bought the contrasting limey green fabric because I want to put you know, dressing gowns have like that bit that goes up the front, a bit like a shawl collar, it goes all the way up the front and round the back and down again. So I'm going to do that along the front here, and I'll make the belt of the waist of the dressing gown out of that too. So I don't know if you can tell, I'm making this up as I go along, and who knows, I really hope it will be successful. And I suppose the not knitting means I've got lots and lots of time to devote to this sewing project. I will keep you updated. Please cross all your fingers and toes for me, because I'm going to need it. I've got 2 other things that I need to make as well. One of them is keeping me firmly wedded to the whole checkerboard knits thing. At the Christmas party which we held here, we have every year we have a family party where people that won't necessarily see each other at Christmas, and people that will be together at Christmas, everybody that wants to come can come, but it's for, you know, family that won't necessarily see each other at Christmas, but we all want to get together and, you know, say happy Christmas and spend some time together and then swap presents and stuff like that. So one of us in the family holds a party, and it was us this year. And at that, my sister-in-law said to me, her birthday is also in February, and she said, would you knit me a tea cosy? They've her and my brother moved in, and their children moved in to the house they're in about 6 years ago, but it needed, and still does, a bit like ours, a lot of work doing to it. And they spent like the first few years doing, you know, sensible things, windows, roofs, pointing, new radiators, stuff like that. But then this year they've been able to do the kitchen, and it kind of had to all be ripped out, and they knocked down a wall and built a bit extra, and it's absolutely brilliant. They both love it so much. They both do a lot of cooking and spend a lot of time in there, and it was lovely at Christmas. It was so nice, and so I kind of feel slightly honoured that she wants me to make her a tea cosy to go with a new beautiful kitchen. And then at Christmas when we were there and all the kids had their checkerboard hats on, she was like, oh, will you make me a checkerboard tea cosy? It's like, okay. Thinking, oh God, going to be knitting checkerboards for the rest of my life. But anyway, the kitchen is grey. Like the cupboards are grey, and then she's got sort of like an accent colour is a sort of limey yellowy colour. It's really like in the fabric for, she hasn't made the blinds yet, but she showed me the fabric, and my brother bought her a print. They live really near to the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, and they went to an exhibition recently, and there was a print that had a tree and a big sunrise behind it. It was very graphic with sort of blackbirds flying across it, and he bought that for Christmas, and it looks beautiful in the kitchen. And so she said they are the colours that she would like greys and a sort of yellowy colour. So I've been diving through my stash. These are Woolly Mammoth Fibre Hearth DK as leftovers from my heirloom quilt cardigan that I made. This is just the undyed grey, and this I think is called, it was called Mustard Green brackets Bright. That's the colourway it was. And so I think they might fit the bill. I just think she might think that's too muted. So the alternative I've got is this, which is a yarn that I dyed with Tansy. So it's a really nice, it's coming out a bit paler. There you go, like that. Really bright yellow, like with Tansy that I grew in the garden. And it's 100% DK wool. I don't know what it is. Maybe 3 visits ago to Yarndale, there is usually at Yarndale a guy who just has like a shelf, a big shelf, and it's just full of cones, like half used cones, and they just have a weight on, and then you know, it'll say silk, or it'll say polyester, or it'll say 100% wool, or you know, it doesn't tell you the breed or anything. And this was 100% wool. It's quite like scratchy feeling, like woolly feeling. I'd be all right with it. I quite like scratchy wool, but it's not super duper soft. It's not as soft as the Hearth DK, but I think it's, you know, it's toothy. I think the two of them will go together. So she could have those. The advantage of this one is that I don't think it'll show up the drips, because she did say she might like a light grey and a dark grey. So I have these in my stash. This is Lamould 1-2, which is 50% llama and 50% virgin wool. It's Camarose. I think it's smaller than a DK weight. I think it's a sport weight. What does it say? Doesn't tell you. Just says there's a... Yeah. No, it says it's DK. Well, 200 meters to 100 grams. That's DK, isn't it? But it looks quite a thin DK compared to... Maybe it's just because it's a smoother, softer wool. Anyway, I'm rambling. She did say she might fancy a light grey and a dark grey, like she would be happy with that. I think the problem with the light grey is that tea will drip onto it inevitably, because she wants a tea cosy that she can keep on the pot while she pours from it. She doesn't want to have to take it off. So she wants the little gap for the handle and the spout. And I think inevitably tea will dribble off onto it. So I'm going to show, she's coming on Monday. She's she really likes willow weaving, and there is a place in our local town where a lady runs willow weaving courses, and Amanda's been to quite a few of them, and it's very nice because she comes and stays the night with us, like before or after. So she's coming on Monday, so I'm going to show her all of these. If it were me, I'd go for those two. They're really sturdy. They're dark enough that it won't show up the odd tea drip. They'd be nice and warm, but that's an option too. And it's all an option. It's up to her. And I want to do it really nicely. I want it to be really good. I mean, I would do anyway, because I love her, and I don't see why you'd make somebody a present and not try your best. But I want to particularly because for my birthday, she made me this. It's a basket. This is what I put the yarn in. It's a foraging basket, she says. So she's woven this with a kit from that lady. It's called it's vanished out of my head. Not Make with Nature, Create with Nature. I can't remember. Anyway, it's in our local town, which is Todmorden, and she bought a kit from there. My sister-in-law did. It's got a wooden base, and she's woven all the willow, and then it's got this like webbing strap, and it's for when I go out gathering my bits and pieces for my dyeing. And I was so happy, like I nearly cried. I got some really nice presents this year. My daughter made me some. I showed them on Instagram, like some hankies. One was just like she'd blanket stitched the edge, and the other one she'd embroidered my initial on. And oh, honestly, I wept. I don't know what's wrong with me. It was so nice, just for people to take the time and the effort and to make something that they know you like. So that's top of my list. All of these things have to be done by in February. We've got a birthday. My youngest son, no, my middle son is the beginning. Amanda's the middle, and my youngest son is the end. So I need to do them. But the other thing I also need to do in that time scale, well, I don't need to do it, but I'm choosing to do it. Liberty of London is celebrating this year 150 years of existence, and one of the ways that which they're celebrating is they want to put together a huge like patchwork quilt that is made up of patches that are largely made from Liberty fabrics. Does that make sense? And I want to take part in it, so I have these Liberty fabrics. They're like Liberty lawn. I think I'm probably going to make something with them at some point. I never did. They're very pretty. Got lots of them. And so I need to make a patch. I think it's 25 by 25 centimetres. So it's like, and it doesn't need, they don't want it quilted or anything. They just want it, they just want the top patch, and that's it. I'm trying to struggle out of this one again, sorry. So I need to get on and do that. So I have got a lot of making to do, but it's all kind of making for others or making things. So I need to put my knitting aside, and I do, like, I know there's a lot of videos around at the minute about like you know, New Year knitting plans or 2025 knitting plans, or you know, knitting for this season or whatever, and I love watching those sorts of videos, but I'm going to hold off talking about what my plans for me are, and I sort of alluded to in the last video that I want to sort of slightly change my approach. Certainly I was saying I want to use up what I've got, and I'm really going to try hard to work down my stash of both fabrics and yarn. I don't really want to buy any new fabric or any new yarn. There are a few caveats in that, which I'm really going to try and stick to. But yeah, we'll see. What I'm saying is this video is already an hour long, so I'm not going to talk about them now, particularly because I'm not going to get to them, I shouldn't think, because even when I finished all the making for everybody else, I've got the Easy V and I've got the socks, and I do also have the Wallerman shawl, which is still like this deep. But I know it's not just like, you know, when you start reading a book and you think, oh, I've got to get to the end of it. I gave that up years ago. I don't do that anymore. If I'm not enjoying it, I just say I'm not reading the rest of that. It's a waste of time. It's not that with the shawl. I'm not thinking I've started, so I best finish. I really want it. It's just that it's a very minds-on knit. I can't do it in the evening. I can't do it if I'm talking to somebody. So it kind of hasn't happened. So those sort of three things, I'm not saying that I have to have them all finished and cast off before I start anything else, but that's what I'm going to go back to and work on those before I then get to any like new plans. So I'm thinking my plans video might come out in March, which I often feel is the beginning of the year anyway, like the proper new year, as all those springtime feelings kick in. That's often when I get like the new year type energy. So I might save any sort of knitting plans, sewing plans, making plans videos till then. And I might not do an individual plan. I might just like a individual video. I might just stick a bit at the end of each video like I have done in the past. Anyway, I feel very waffly. I did have one more thing to talk about, but I think I'm gonna give you a rest. I think if you've got to this point, thank you so much. I was looking at you can look at like the analytics I found out on YouTube the other day, and had a look, and apparently loads of people turn off halfway through. So I don't know what that says. But so if you've made it to the end, I'm really, really grateful. Thank you ever so much for being here. Thank you again to all of those people that, that like and subscribe, but particularly thank you to all those people that leave comments. I really enjoy getting comments off people. I love like answering those comments, whether it's just like chit chat type things, or whether it's answering a question and like so encouraging somebody else to make something. I really, really enjoy all of that. So if you are somebody that has left a comment for me in the past, I'm grateful, and please feel free to comment on this one. And yeah, I hope that you are warm and cozy where you are. I hope that you are knitting pain free, and yeah, take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.